Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome back to the channel and welcome to Project 3 of the year's completion. If you recall back a little while ago, I left this video up for my hobby goals for 2020. Not wanting to leave the large titans behind, project number 5 is another titan this year. Now I've got a choice of which ones I'm going to do. Now they're all built, they are all primed, so that's the hard work done really. The painting is still to come. There's a lot of paintwork on these things, as you can see from some of the Warlord Titan that I've done this year, for example. But I've got a Warbringer, I've got some Warhounds, and I've got a Porphyrion, which isn't quite a full Titan. It's just a very large Knight. I definitely want to get one of those done. Again, it's just a bit of time and effort to be able to do those things. I've got the painting technique and style I want to use down because I've done all that on previous Knights and Titans. This is one that I just want to get done, make sure that I'm still making progress through those huge Forge World kits that I like to tend to buy. So that's definitely on the list. However, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section below which one you think we should go for. Should it be just another boring Warhound? Should it be the Porphyrion, which is actually quite good in normal 40k, I'd say? It's a bit overpointed, but something that's a little bit different. But equally, the Nemesis class Warbringer Titan with its huge cannon. I'd love to see that get some paintwork on it as well. But that's definitely going to be on the cards for 2020. Yes, that's right. We are back on the Titan and Knight painting marathon. Let's be honest, it is a marathon. And this video, we are going to be taking a look at the latest addition to the Legio Astorum, aka the Warp Runners, and the Porphyrion Knight. So not technically a Titan, but it was on my list of things to get done for 2020. I did include that in my little list. And it's now complete. The bonus time that we have found ourselves with, despite me being in a very fortunate position that I am still working a full-time job, albeit from home still. I'm on week 5 as I record this video of working from home. Still finding it quite tough, but equally I'm pretty fortunate that I am able to continue to work. I know a lot of people are in very different circumstances. However, it does mean that I'm still painting with that added time, and I'd probably say that this project has taken a good solid 2 weeks painting, maybe 3 to 5 hours a day, something like that. But I do have the technique down for this. I've been painting this style of Knight and Titan for a long time, so I'm pretty au fait, I think, with how to approach these things. So, I'm going to start off with a little bit of history because I built this big bad boy in 2019, about January 2019. Having sold and having had a bit of a clear out of a whole bunch of stuff, this was my reward. I replaced about 4 boxes of old stuff I was never going to paint with one giant resin box. But I'm just going to show you a quick clip of the unboxing, the full unboxing video. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can go and reminisce over the full unboxing and build. And guys, this is the box that the Porphyrion comes in. One of these large new Titanicus boxes that have been coming out since the Warlord, I think, was the first one to do these new box kits. So you get all this. In fact, you can see on that imagery there, just in the background next to the Titanicus symbol, is the Warlord. So it's almost like they've just recycled the box. So just inside then, it's all sealed up, as you can see. I like to do my box unboxings typically from fresh, but I'm sure that may change throughout the year because I'm not sure how much of a viewership that really generates, to be honest. Let's be honest there. So let's take a look. So we get a nice big layer of bubble wrap, and then underneath we get lots of bags, typical of Forge World. So a number of bags. So we'll just take all of those out, and then what I'll do is I'll cut through a little bit of the chaff of taking stuff out of the box, and then we'll line it all up and see exactly what we get. One of the big key things about doing Forge World kits is to double check your component list. There are a number of mistakes that they still do make, human error, whatever, even though you get this little certificate inside the box here at the bottom saying quality controlled and checked and etc, etc. Parts still do go missing, or they could be so badly warped or badly cast that you can easily get a replacement. Forge World customer service is still very good at replacing bad parts or missing parts pretty quickly. So we'll skim through and we'll see what components are inside. So there are 6 bags of components. Now they're all a little bit jumbled up. I was hoping that they might be like Lego do these days, where each build section kind of comes in the right bag for the right order. But it doesn't really matter, because I tend to build these not as per the instructions, purely because of the painting aspect and leaving armour panels off and so on. And some things need to dry and you can continue working on other components. So the order of the instructions isn't super important. But what is important is making sure that everything is there. So what I've done here is almost kind of lay it out in a logical fashion. So on the right there are all the leg components. Got the leg plates, the leg armour, the thighs and torso, thighs and lower legs, sorry. And then in the middle is kind of all the parts that make up the torso, the main chassis and everything else. There's a couple of little gun options here that I'll look to magnetise as we go through the build. But just sort of, and then on the left, right on the far left hand side, we have the top missile turret. There's a choice of 2 missile plates. I may look to make those interchangeable as well, but realistically from a rules perspective, no one's really going to care whether you've got the high dense missiles or the more sparse looking ones. No one's really going to argue which is which. But you can have that missile turret open or closed, as you can see there in the quick demo on that upper torso. And then the rest of the left hand side over here is all of the main guns. Now these main guns are twin Magna las cannon, and it comes with a pair of these. It comes with 2 twin Magna las cannons, which have some rather tasty rules. They're heavy 2d3 shots each, strength 12, AP -3, and do a damage of 6. But they can't be used to make Overwatch, so they're pretty damn powerful, right? So, and then you've got the Ironstorm missile pod or the Helios defense missiles. As I mentioned, there's 2 different types of missile. One shoots flyers and one can fire indirectly at ground targets. Nothing super duper exciting about those. It's all about these twin Magna las cannons. So all the components look to be there. So the order I'm going to kind of build it in is mainly the torso piece. But let's get back to the video at hand, and what I'm going to show you over the next few minutes is the paint job, really. So we're going to start off with how I tackled the model, the painting approach that I took. It's not a full painting tutorial. I do have various painting tutorials on this style that I'm using for the Legio Astorum, mainly on the Warlord Titan, but you can have a look through the Knights and Titans playlist that I'll put in a description below as well for you, so you can go and take a look at all the other hobby goodness, all the other resin and plastic amazingness. That's a new word, just made it up. So pretty much starting from the prime, this video is going to sort of follow along. I've recorded most of the sections as I've gone along, and then right at the very end obviously is going to be the showcase of the finished model. And of course I'll do a commentary over the top, so you can listen to me waffle on a little bit more and go through the thought process and some of the painting and so on, and I'll discuss that as I tackle the largest knight in the Forge World Armoury. But without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So after building and priming the entire model in black, this is where we get to as our starter for this video. So the entire model has been sprayed with Lead Belcher, which is Games Workshop's metallic spray can. I've then dry brushed, or before I've dry brushed, sorry, I've then coated the whole thing in Nuln Oil, left it to dry pretty much for 8 hours, I think it was. So I did it in the morning, did a day's work, and then came back and it was good to go. Then using Vallejo's gunmetal and then Vallejo's silver, I've dry brushed the hell out of the model, particularly focusing on those large bald hip joints, and then pretty much everywhere else. And then using that silver as a very light dry brush over the top, pretty much it really at that stage. So you end up with that full shaded metallic, and then you sort of bring out and polish all of the main metal components. And what we're going to now do is move in to start painting some of the detail in. And as you've seen there, I've just shown two colours. One is a black colour, and the next one is a brass colour. Now I haven't done the same just yet with the torso, but you can just see here the difference between a Nuln Oil wash over the Lead Belcher and then one that's had the highlights applied. So that's the only reason I haven't done that. Obviously the torso is going to follow on whilst you've got the same colours out. So at this stage now then, I've applied brass to all of the ribbed cabling, and then black to a lot of the piston areas. So you can see all the pistons around the sides, the lower feet and so on. Anything that's sort of a mechanical moving component I've painted black, and then that brassy brass I've painted all on the ribbed cabling. Now various other colours here, so we've got a brighter brassy colour which is the natural highlight, and then a red, and I've painted all of the other types of cable here. You can see there the crutch cables there in red, and then using some of the other colours here I've painted the brass over a lot of the details on those pistons. What we can now do is go into some various other colours. So we've got an Eshin grey, which is what I've painted the ribbed cabling between the legs here. So those components that I'm just pointing out on the video. And then what I've done here, using the same silvers as before, so the lead belcher and the silver, I've dry brushed that onto the pistons to give them a worn look. So the bottom of the piston remains black, and then the rest of the piston is painted in two-stage dry brush so it looks worn. The next stage there, using Seraphim Sepia, some gloss varnish and a dab of black, what I've done is mix all of that together so you get this oil effect. And I've applied that all over the pistons and all over the piston housings. So we get that oil sheen that looks like the lubricant that sits within those pistons as they go up and down. Now the next stage here is we start on the leg panels. There are a lot, there's 4 per leg, and then we've got 2 thigh ones, and then we've got a groin guard. Now the full guide to how I've painted these is in the Warlord Titan video where I've done the aged gold. So I'll leave a link in the description below for all of that, and obviously the playlist information is already down there for you. So this is a multi-stage airbrush with the blues, which is a night blue, then an imperial blue, and then we use a Druki violet and Drakenhof nightshade inks. But the gold starts off with brass, goes through several washes, then some Vallejo gold, and then we end up with this finished effect as I've stuck them all together. So that's pretty much the legs complete. So other than some weathering and so on. And if you need some details on the feet, again, they are in other videos. But I've just used like a worn metal effect on the feet. But as I said, this video is not a full painting guide. It is just the journey of painting the Porphyrion. Now the torso has now completed all of its dry brush stages. We're now going to paint in some of the engine vents here. So I'm using an imperial blue and then an electric blue airbrush fade. And then a little bit of white over the top of that. And what we're going to do on that is apply that to the vents on the back of the Titan's torso. So you see those vents there, they are painted black first. You can see I've painted in some of those brass details, exactly the same as I did on the legs as well. And then we airbrush, a fade airbrush into those vents to give them the plasma glow. Now just as a recap on some of the other components here, so we've got this large torso, canopy. We've got a head mounting section, which is this piece here. That doesn't fit like it fits like that, but it attaches itself to the torso. We've got the missile rack, which fits in the back there. You can hinge that if you really wanted to. I know a few people that are trying to look into how to hinge and magnetise this. I'm going to have it open because why not? And then we've got the large Magna Las cannons as well. So these have all been primed exactly the same as the others. They'll go through the same Nuln Oil dry brush stages. They'll have all the brasses applied, red cabling applied, and so on, and they'll all be exactly the same. So that's the process behind that. Now this piece fits snugly, very, very snugly over the top of here. But when you're putting it together, always, you know, when you're ready to paint it, keep it separate so that you can paint it separately. It's far easier than doing it over the top. But this is kind of what we're looking for. So that torso goes there. The Magna Las cannons fit on the side if I grab the right one. And there we go, 2 super large. I did have the right one the first time round. There we go, that goes on that side. You can see now the torso and the sides of these stupid Las cannons, they are massive. You probably could get away with magnetising. Once again, I will use adhesive on those. JB Weld will be used for these because they are pretty heavy and just rotate around themselves in the holes. And these are the 2 little armour panels that go over the top here. So obviously I've painted those the same time as I've painted all the other panels. So we skip forward now a couple of days later. We've now done all of the blue work on the top of the canopies, the missile rack and the underbelly protector. and you can see just about in there that the ink wash is there, sort of giving a galactic kind of feel, I guess. I'm not going to go full Monty and give it the full celestial effect on this, because it doesn't match the rest of my knights, so I'm not going to bother with that. But I am going to be gloss varnishing it, and that brings out that hue a little bit better, and then some weathering. So just looking at the Magna Las cannons there, they've been given their wash and dry brush now as well at this stage, whilst other bits and pieces are drying. And now we fast forward a little bit extra. I've added some more details to that top canopy now. All the brass work around the engine exhausts, around the little viewing gallery on the top of the pilot's hatch. Nothing happens to those components here, but the Magna Las cannons have now been complete. So various different effects here. Other than the metallic dry brush, I've obviously applied a gold tint to some of these, and then airbrush burned the ends. So we start with the Seraphim Sepia, which is this one here. We do that to about 3/4 of the way down the last cannon barrel. We then go Druchii Violet, and we bring that just to about 2/3 of the way down the barrel, just overlapping onto the brass area. And then we take Drakenhof Nightshade, and we do that in the final kind of third. And that gives the burn effect that we've got here. The rest of the brass and red exactly the same as we've done on the legs, but finally we've got another glowing effect that I've applied to the heat sinks right at the very end. Now we start off with a very dark red, I think that's red gore from Vallejo. We apply that over a painted black base. Then we go into hot orange, and we apply that sparingly again in the middle to give a fade effect, and then we go to a golden yellow across the middle, and that's what we end up with. So you can see that sort of heat burn effect, or the heat dissipation effect on the heat sinks at the back of the Magna Las cannons. Obviously I've done that to both at the same time, and this is the end result. Is those two Magna Las cannons are now finished, other than the armour panels, but painting them both at the same time obviously completely makes sense whilst you've got various paint mixes all ready to go. The next stage then is to add some fancy effects. I've done a video, I think I've done a video on this before, how to do checkered effects, but basically lots of masking tape. I'm going to put a white to grey stripe straight down the middle, or just off-centered on the middle, across the entire canopy. That matches where the missile rack is. I've painted in some yellow sections as well, but equally I've painted all some checkered patterns and some striped patterns, just to break up the monotony of the blue. I've also painted now the underside of the rocket pod, and inside the rocket pod cowling or recess part here, I've used a heavy blue-grey, lots of washes in there, a little bit of weathering so it looks like it's opened and closed quite a lot. And this is the net result. I've now gloss varnished these panels, and you can see the shine and the fade of those sort of whitish grey checkers. This one I'm not going to do the same, because I'm going to apply some decals to these and leave them fairly plain. But those are the those sort of butterfly shaped ones are the Magna Las cannon outer armour cowling. So you can see that stripe now. I've also sort of brassed and golded up the front of the top cowling, and then also the rear engine protectors right at the very back. And with everything kind of done at this stage, I've now glued on the top cowling and the lower cowling to that torso. And this is kind of where we get to. I've painted in some of the lenses, some of the other detailed in metals as well. Basically lead belcher and Nuln Oil, and then a dry brush highlight. But you can see that stripe all the way across the top there. Just kind of breaks up the very boring-y, kind of flat-looking blue. Even though when you look closely and when you varnish it up, you can see the effects of the ink or the glaze airbrushes through that colour. I think you can just about see it on those butterfly panels that are on the side of the last cannons there, which are now also glued on. Looking quite nice, quite happy with the progress so far. One of the big things about building Knights and Titans in such a modular way is that nothing looks complete until you glue things together. And you get to that point and it's like, I've been working on this for days and weeks and it still doesn't look anywhere near complete. Then suddenly it all starts coming together when you start gluing the panels on. So I've worked on the head, the head guard, as well as another third component to where the head mounts as well. The Magna Las cannon shoulder pauldron parts are all complete. So we're ready pretty much to go ahead and start gluing this together. But before we do so, there's a whole bunch of decals that I've got. So I've got a Knight decal sheet here. I've got my leftover Legio Astorum decal sheet, which I've had for 5 years now. Unfortunately, they don't make them anymore. I wish they did, because these are like rocking horse poo to get hold of. But I'm sparingly keeping them going. So we're now going to apply some decals over the gloss. So standard decal application, gloss varnish, apply the decal, gloss varnish again. Use any kind of softening agent that you've got, like Microsol, Microset and so on. Gives a real strong finish. That means they won't flake off or anything like that. At this point then, I've glued the torso onto the legs. Now it's very tricky to try and pick this thing up. I mean, I think some of the gloss varnish is still actually dry, and I really want to avoid putting any thumbprints into that at this stage. I have used JB Weld at this point because it is a load-bearing key point. But once everything now is glued on, because we're at that stage, let's take a look at the showcase. So there we go then, guys. Project 3 for 2020 is now complete. Thousand Suns are done. The Zinch Demons are done. The Knight Porphyrion is now done. So 3 out of 9, 9 plus 1 for the bonus Custodes project. But we're just at the sort of the end of April. So 4 months in, 3 projects done. Probably 3 of the larger projects that needed to be done, or that I wanted to do. Not needed, but you know. We are hobbyists after all, and everything needs to be done. But I hope you enjoyed following along with this little mini Porphyrion series. So there's 2 videos to this one and the build one. Again, link in the description below if you want to catch up on that. But I hope you like the end result. I'm pretty happy with the way that it's turned out. It does match exactly in with everything else that I've done so far. The same colour scheme, adopting the same panels. I've still got some of those Legio Astorum decals left, which I'm using very sparingly at the moment, just to make sure they eke out across all of the projects. But if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And while you're subscribing, why not turn on all notifications? YouTube has changed the notification thing that you can select 3 different types of notification. Why not turn them all on so that you know when I'm uploading my next video?